Thank you, Lacey. Voice is okay? Perfect. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending this session. Welcome to this awesome Microsoft 365 virtual marathon. This is, I think, the 6th or 7th hour out of awesome 36 hours that we're going through. We are going to be talking about migrating your SharePoint Classic to Modern. If you have attended the Eric Overfield's session just before me, he did a great job in terms of migrating into the cloud from a business point of view, from a business perspective, what you need to do to plan it. And this is a little bit more technical, where we're going to take you through the journey and what you need to do from a technical perspective when you want to migrate your SharePoint Classic sites into modern SharePoint. With that in mind, we're just going to go and introduce myself. My name is Mike Maadarani. I am based in Ottawa, Canada. I have been doing SharePoint for forever, actually, since 2000, since it was just created with V1. I am a Microsoft MVP since 2015. I do co-host M365voice.com podcast. If you want to check it out, we do it on a weekly basis where you can go and get some answers on various topics of M365. My focus is a lot on migration. I do quite a bit of migration from on-premise to Office 365 or tenant to tenant as well. A couple of slides to go through. We will be looking forward to seeing you again next year with what used to be called the SharePoint Conference North America. It is called in our Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference. Is held in Nevada, in Las Vegas, Nevada, March 23rd to 25th, 2021. Also, this is the sponsor slides. Much thankful for them for helping us putting this event together with all the support. You can go and visit them in their virtual room, and if you visit them in the virtual room along with some other rules, I guess, you will be getting or winning a chance to win awesome prizes. So submit your answers, visit them, and you need to have at least five questions answered. And also, one last slide to go and support the some of the charities around the world to help them fight COVID, whether it is the Miracle Corp or the United Way. The actual URLs are on the screen if you want to go and check them out, or you can email info@m365virtualmarathon.com. So let's get into the topic here. We're going to talk about the migration from SharePoint Modern to SharePoint Classic to SharePoint Modern. We would want to go backward, that's for sure. So what is Classic and what is Modern? For some of the audiences may not have had the chance to see what is Modern in SharePoint. Why do we need to do this? We're going to look at what things that we can take away from the sessions and what are the migration options if you have many SharePoint Classic sites, and how do we take care of that and make sure that they are migrated properly into the modern world. So what is modern? I'm going to take that into multiple steps, from an information architecture perspective to the branding and to the development. So let's look at the IA. Traditionally, this is what we have done from SharePoint on-premise. We have a site collection or multiple site collections, and within the site collection, you have multiple subsites. Within that subsite, you can have more subsites, you can have lists, you can have libraries, you're going to have a lot of permissions broken in there. You're going to have a lot of different branding applied at different levels, inconsistency. Things can be quite a bit of mess if you have given the actual end user quite a bit of control to control their sites as administrators. And the same thing has happened in Office 365, whether you were in SharePoint Online or on-premise back in the days. So the SharePoint Classic in Office 365, I would call it was born from the SharePoint 2013 architecture. So we had very similar, where we had multiple site collections. Within each site collection, we had multiple sites and subsites, and we will have the same list of libraries, and it goes on and on forever. And that caused quite a bit of headaches from a permission perspective, and caused quite a bit of headache from a performance perspective as well in the cloud, having that many level deep down with navigation structures and a lot of nested sites. So what changed? Every site is a site collection right now. If you have not heard that, that has changed about 3 years ago. This is the new SharePoint framework, what we call it the Share Modern. The information architecture is flat. We have gotten into a very flat world where every site, every time you go into a SharePoint page, the home page, you will have a create site, and you are actually creating a site collection. So we have gone from one site collections or multiple site collections with multiple subsites and multiple levels into a very flat world where each site is a site collection, and it will have a lot of pages. It will have lists and libraries in there. That has not changed, but we are flat. We no longer recommend our best practices to have subsites. Technically, you can go and create a subsite in SharePoint modern sites. It is definitely not recommended. We are going to view things as flat as possible. And I know what you feel, that, oh, you're going to say, oh, every site is a site collection. Back in the days, I had thousands of site collections with multiple subsites and thousands of subsites. And now you're asking me to go and have every site as a site collection. How I'm going to manage that? How I'm going to look into grouping all those sites into one place to make sure that I have this hierarchy that I used to have before. So let's do some comparison here from who is pro and who is against site collection. Back in the days, it was the site collection was the boundary where we have created, or we have drawn in terms of permissions perspective, from an information management perspective, whatever. If you want to have search is scoped into a site collection, branding is in that place into one site collection, and when you go to a separate site collection, you have to repeat the same thing. So all the access is at the site collection level, where people were against site collection because of navigation is not shared across. You have to repeat the actual navigation all over the place. You will have to rebrand or apply the branding from one site collection to another. We're going to have to apply the content types. If you have done a lot of content types, a lot of metadata, that was a big deal, because if you go and create all this taxonomy and content types and metadata and everything else in a site collection, we're going to have to repeat the same thing in a separate site collection. So if you are going from one structure, from a site collection and subsite, and go into multiple site collection, how I'm going to manage that? So we're going to go through all of this. And if you look at the sites, subsites, the pros and cons, people that like subsite because they can control things from the top level. I can apply, for example, site collection level, site content types. I can have common navigations. People will probably argue with branding and permissions, and I can tell you that this does not probably live for a long time. If you have given the administrators or the site admins the capabilities to manage their actual subsites, they have absolutely all the power in the world to go break the branding and break the content types and break the permissions, and that's when we get into a lot of mess. Again, subsites like myself, initially when we went from a hierarchy into a flat world, I'm like, I don't know if I like it. But when you start thinking about it, it's way easier to do it that way. I don't have to worry about the broken permission inheritance. I don't have to worry about making sure if an organization structure has been changed, how can I move subsites to somewhere else? Because an org structure, because the organization has gone through a restructuring. So how do I do that? How do I manage this? So right now, because it's flat, I can do things any way I want. I can rename them. I can move them around. The URL is not long. The storage now, from the limitation storage, now it is its own site collection, so we have no storage limits per se, or we have a lot more storage. So there's a lot of good way to do it. So how we are, for the people who are scared or feared from managing many site collections, there are a few solutions that we can give you. From a Microsoft's world, the product group had come up with what we call a SharePoint hub site. A SharePoint hub site is putting everything in a hub, if you want to put it that way. What it means that it brings together related team and communication sites where admins can create and site owners can adopt and use. SharePoint Hub Sites enables you, for example, to link related team and communication sites together based on a project, based on department, division, region, whatever that is, whatever best fits your organization, and in doing so helps your organization work more productively across any number of sites. Let's break down what it delivers. A communication site, for example, a communication destination in its own right to serve as home for shared content, which we're calling the hub site. So, for example, from a hub site, I can create my work at Contoso that you can see on the screenshot here as a hub site, and I can have other sites associated with it. It is, at the end of the day, a site, a SharePoint site. Typically, we create or we turn a communication site into a hub site. You can turn any team site into a hub site or a classic site into a hub site. We definitely don't go classic. We're going modern today. But an existing site can be turned into a hub site where, for example, I can create a department hub site. I create it as a communication site, turn it into a hub, and from there I can go and associate all the actual site collections for all the different departments as a hub site associated with the same hub site. With that in mind, what benefit does it give me? I do have quite a bit of benefits when I have a hub site in place. One of the benefits I have is it will have common navigation, for example. One of the actual advantages also, it will have you can publish news. You can surface news from different departmental sites into that hub site. So all the information it will be surfaced up there. Everything will be surfaced. If I search from the hub site, it will search across all the associated sites. So we have some of the users that are concerned about having a flat world, that were concerned about navigation. We address that with the hub site. That are concerned about search, we address that as well. They are concerned about branding. So if you apply branding from a hub site, it will actually push that branding into all the sites that are associated with it. If you want to share information across the hub site, you can do that. You can govern that from one place. And also coming soon, you will be able to push permissions from the hub site down. So now you can probably tell me, oh, what is the difference? You're just complaining about the security inheritance and how you can break the security inheritance from a subsite. How is that different from this one? It's a lot different because I'm not actually breaking the security inheritance. What I'm saying is I want you to go and push this permissions from the hub site to the sites associated with it. The actual subsite still has its own permissions. And when I deassociate this hub site from the site from the hub site, those permissions are restored and automatically. So there's a lot of automations back in the back end. There's a lot of governance also that would allow me to properly manage the actual sites. We're going to go through some demos, so I'm not just going to focus a lot on that. That's a quick slide that I like from Bob German, top 10 reasons why you use Modern. Sites are very compelling. They are really good looking sites. I don't have to brand it much. It comes really sexy looking sites. I don't have to do that. It comes mobile friendly. Back in the days, we used to spend 2 or 3 weeks just to make sure that the actual classic site collections will fit on mobile phones, and it is very responsive. It is much, much faster. Everywhere means whether you are on your mobile device or you are on your desktop, whatever browser, whatever device you have, it is much faster. It is backed by groups, and we'll talk about groups. It is flexible for the organization. Like I said, if you go through the organization go through a restructuring, because I don't have that hierarchy. Let's say I have a division there and it moves to a different division. I can basically, if I have a hub site, all I have to do is associate it with a different division hub site, and that's it. I don't have to migrate anything. I just have to move things around without attachments to the parent or the hub site. We have seen the list on library improvements a lot, exposes a lot of new features. One thing you want to keep in mind that what it means by exposing new features, all the investments that the product group is going to put in is the modern sites. No more improvements, no more investments in the classic sites anymore. That does not mean that are going away. Classic sites, if you are on Classic, don't be afraid. They are staying for a long time, but there are no improvements. No new web parts, no improvements on list and libraries are modern, unless you specifically say you're not. But from a site perspective, no improvements at all. So make sure that you are in modern. There's a lot of more, like I said, a lot of new web parts is coming also only for modern, way more secure and feature-rich methods. We talked about it, and of course, Teams is there. Teams is the best product, in my opinion, and everyone's agree with that. That the best product ever since they launched SharePoint 2007. The adoption is skyrocketing. The user experience, the integration between Teams and SharePoint, how well they work together, is really good. So I'm just wanting to jump now into some demos. This is, if you have not seen a modern site, this is a modern SharePoint communication site. It's very compelling. It did not take me at all any time to customize this. I have a logo here. I have an actual lot of web parts, and the theme in here. I am logged in as Megan, and Megan is the administrator. I do have, for example, a PowerPoint presentation. It is pretty nice and very compelling based on compared to what we've seen before. From here, this is a hub site, and we are going and show you how you can work with a hub site. For example, this is navigation is controlled by the hub. So if I can go and edit this navigation, I will get to that in a minute. By doing so, I will be able to go and push that navigation across all the sites that are associated with it. Editing this homepage is very similar to what we've done before, but it is much more responsive. I can create and then add multiple sections. I'm not going to go through a crash course of how things will work, but it is as easy as creating a 2 columns, 3 columns, whatever that section. I can transform this existing section, for example. I can edit that and make it 2 columns, and by doing so, it will automatically add a column on in here, and I can go and add web parts. I can go and add the highlighted content, which shows me, for example, the most recent documents, and I don't need to, unlike Classic sites, every time back in the days with Classic, if you want to go and edit a page, every time you do an action, you submit an action, it will have to go and refresh the page. That is not the case here. For example, I can select the source of this most recent documents. I can say I want it from this site, all the sites in this hub. So, and this is what I mean that you can surface once you have sites associated with the hub, all this information can be surfaced into the hub, and you can display that. I can change the source. This is one of the examples into this specific document library, or this is this specific site collection, and it will automatically update it right away. I don't have to go save it and go see how it looks like. I can do a lot of storing. I can go and change the layout of it. For example, I can put it as a carousel, and I can go through all of them and specify the number of items that will show up. This is one of the examples I can do here in terms of how quickly I can go and edit the site. It is very intuitive, very easy to work with. Also, so let's discard those changes here. I'm just gonna say yes to this. I'm gonna go and click on and edit the page again. And let's see if I want to add events here or add a new web part on a new section. Let's do add a new section here. So I can go and add a new 2 column sections, and from here, I'm gonna go and click add some text here if I want to. This is my text area. I'm not going to go into the publishing much, but basically I can go and republish this page, and by republishing the page, it will automatically puts it live. For the users out there that have been publishing, or they come from the intranet world where you have corporate intranet and you use the publishing sites back in the days, you're gonna probably say, hey, how come I cannot govern that? Definitely I can govern that. I can put an approval workflow on it. I'm just gonna go to the backend site contents, and I click on the site pages, and clicking on the site pages will take me to the pages library where I can go and create a workflow. So under there is an automate, and I can go to the Power Automate, and I can click on configure page approval. This will be automatically, it's a prepackaged approval workflow that will allow me to create an approval process on the pages so no one can go and publish the pages without my permissions. Here it's going to tell me what is it that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to click on continue. I'm going to give it a name. I'll call it work approval workflow. And who are the approvers? I'm just going to add Megan for that because I can approve myself for now. I'm not going to go through the process of having multiple people, but you get to the point that can create a page approval workflow on this pages library. When that is completed, next time I go and edit the actual page, it will ask me to go and submit it for approval. So I go back to the home page here, and we'll wait for it to refresh a bit. I click on edit. I am not going to actually, let's go back and remove this section because I really don't like this section here because it makes no sense. So let's go and delete this section and go back to the way it was. As you can see here, it's not, it doesn't say republish anymore. It is submit for approval. So it is as easy as that. I was able to go and create an approval workflow without me being a technical person that will ask me to do a lot of technical work. Here it would show me what is it happening. I am gonna go through an approval. It is actually talking to the SharePoint services, and we're gonna have some notification as well. And I can add a message to Megan, please approve this page and submit. And once I do that, Megan will get a notification email. Megan can click on it and it will go and it will submit the changes and it will be able to approve them. So let's take a couple of steps back here. So if I am here in this Contoso, I can go and click on the SharePoint. I'm going to do that right now. So you get the notification here. I'm not going to go through the workflow, so I can go and approve it. You probably get the point here. I'm just going to go and click on SharePoint, and I'm going to create a new site. So I'm going to go and create a site here, and I'm going to create it as a team site. So create a team site here. This is the menu we get. I'm going to call it M365 Virtual Marathon Site. It will automatically remove all the spaces and will check if the actual site URL or the group alias exists. I'm going to make it as private, only by invitation, only members can access it, or it can go with public. Let's go with public for now. Click on next. And here will ask me if I want to add additional owners or members. We're going to skip that for now. I'm going to click on finish. And when I do that, you will see that the actual site has no branding to it. It has no logo. It has a very out of the box, it picks a specific theme. But I want to associate this site with the work with this one here. I want to associate it with it. I want it to be part of this because I want to have it as part of the hub. So the way I do it as an owner, I can go and click on the gear icon, click on the site information, and from there, I will be able to go and associate it with the hub sites. So I have a couple of hub sites. I'm going to associate it with work. Click on save, and it will inherit the navigation. It will inherit the branding and the theme. As you can see, here we go. I have everything now has been inherited. The actual color, everything else. I have the same navigation, and I can go ahead and start working with it. From a navigation perspective, a quick look here as well. I can click on edit, and I can say if I go and a new link, let's call it a label for now, and let's say M365 Virtual Marathon, and I click on OK. It is going to add it. Let's promote it as a main sublink, and I click on save. It will show up here. Once it shows up here, if I go into my site that is associated with the hub, click on refresh, and it will show up there as well. So this is a quick crash course. So we got M365 VM. The intention of this session, not to show you how the hub site works, but basically how we are going to migrate to Modern. So let's switch back into the presentation, and we are going to share it again. We've gone through this, a site demo. Let's talk about branding. How are you going to address branding when it comes to actually migrating from Classic to SharePoint? We have no more master pages. Master pages are no longer at the in the world of modern. And that is a really good thing. Even though myself, I've done tons, maybe thousands of master pages, it was not the best practice, not the recommended way, just because we were able to do it just to satisfy client needs. But it was not something that we wanted to do specifically in the cloud world, because every time there's an update from Microsoft, it will probably break our master pages. So no more master pages, no more page layouts. How can we do branding? So if you look at the comparison between modern and classic, classic, for example, you have the ultimate control over UI. I can do everything I want. Right now we have some control. Well, I can still do whatever I want, but within a SharePoint framework. I can brand as colors and header and footer. We have to use SPFx web parts and design patterns and to do that. No more. It was not a good mobile experience in Classic. In SPFx web parts, it's way better. It's very responsive. It is mobile first. We all do the branding. Within a specific team, we can create a site design and we can create a site script where it will allow you to go and do your own branding that way. So no longer a master page. Everything is front-end development. Everything is client-side development. It's JavaScript. If you are not a JavaScript, you should learn JavaScript. This is the way you go in the future. If you have been doing a lot of customization with JavaScript or client-side scripting, this is great because it will be an easy transition for you to go into the cloud. With that in mind, you can customize anything you want from a branding perspective using SPFx. Even though you cannot truly inject JavaScript, everything is based JavaScript. So the concept of modern is with SPFx. SPFx will expose zones for you to build into it. We can have, for example, zones for the navigation to the top of the global nav. We can have zones for the footer. We can have zones for specific areas on the actual page. So even though what you cannot really quote unquote inject JavaScript, when you upload your code into the app catalog, you are actually uploading from an SPFx perspective. You are actually uploading some JavaScript code. So we've talked about a little bit about the information architecture. We've talked about how we can go into from a hierarchy perspective into a flat world, how we can take advantage of things from hub sites, and how we can manage our information architecture. So think about it. When you are moving from classic into modern, you have to revisit all those sites and subsites. You have to rethink if some of those subsites are valid or not, because you're going to have to surface them as a site collection on the same level. So you're going to have to do a lot of analysis, and you have to rethink how the actual sites are structured and dump some of the old sites that don't think they're relevant, and make sure you come up with a nice flat architecture. We've talked about branding. No more master pages, no more page layouts. You can create your own custom CSS. You can have your own branding using SPFx framework, and you upload your site design into the app catalog. And right now, let's talk about content management. From a content management perspective, we're going to talk about site provisioning. Back in the days, you will be able to create site templates. Some of the actual companies and users I know that would save an existing site as a site template. It worked. It was not the best practice and not a recommended way. There's things that we can do right now very similar. We can create our own site template as well. We can have a communication site template, and you can have a team site template, and we can apply those site templates to the tenant. And from there, we will be able to create sites based on how we want it to have. So let's take a quick look at comparing both of them. Site provisioning in the cloud can take up to 15 minutes. I have heard 24 hours as well if you go and create a new site collection. It is instant. We've gone through the experience to create a site collection together. I created that team site, and it took actually 30 seconds maybe or less. So it's way better. The page editing experience, like I showed you, is much faster. No more push reloads. It basically, you make changes in reloads on the fly. The web parts are fully integrated into the page, no iframes, reactive web part panel, list and libraries are very responsive. The threshold of the list and libraries are now longer, 5,000 is much higher. Keep in mind that 5,000 limit on the list and libraries, it is still an issue if you're accessing those list and libraries through the API. So if you're doing that, make sure that you take care of traditionally how we've done it before. You have views that would be less than 5,000 and you can access it that way. Like I said, we can create site templates with JSON configuration script, and best approach is to use a PNP. So right now we've covered quite a bit of information about Classic and Modern. So how do I upgrade Classic pages into Modern? Or how do I upgrade my branding into Modern? Really, you can't. You are gonna, once you create a site and you want to rebrand things, you have to recreate the brand. Like any other branding activities we've done through migration back in the days. Like I said, I've done so many migrations. And even though, let's say we upgraded back in the days when we migrated from SharePoint 2010 to 2013, we had to redo the branding because the master pages back then from 2013 to 2010 were a lot different. This is very similar. You're going to have to go through the branded exercise, and it is recommended because you're getting a fresh look. You're getting a much nicer design. From a pages experience, you are really not migrating the pages. You're going to have to recreate the pages. If you are living in the publishing world, you'd have to recreate those pages, and then you can use some migration tools to kind of copy the content, or those migration tools will allow you, if you migrate the pages, to create them as modern pages. So what are you worried about? If you are in Classic and Modern, you might have to go back and forth. You might think there are some missing features right now. You've heard some missing features from a Modern that existed in Classic. That is true, somewhat true, I would call it, because it's catching up. That gap between Classic and Modern from a feature perspective is really small. So the product group is working really hard to kind of bridge that gap between Classic and Modern features. For example, multilingual. If you are in an international company that you have created multilingual sites, if you've created the publishing sites with variations, right now, as of today, it doesn't exist. But they are rolling out multilingual for communication sites, I think this week, next week, or this quarter, actually, I think this month. So it's catching up. Scheduled publishing, for example, was not a thing a few months ago. It is a thing right now. I will be able to schedule some publishing of content. How do I move content? How do I move documents? How do I adjust content types? How do I adjust page layouts, governance, site sprawl, compatibility, archiving? Those are very valid questions. If you look at content types, for example, specifically, the way I do it today, so the way that I do it is through SiteScript or through site design. When you create your template, you can go and apply content types and metadata. Manage your actual metadata through taxonomy. That is a good way to do it. So you manage it from one place. So these things that you wanna look at. I know you've done a lot of investments in Classic, and you have spent years and years and thousands of sites in Classic, and now it's time to go into Modern. You're gonna have to rethink it in a different way to make sure that you are setting up everything properly. But again, it is better. It is for the future. This is where you're gonna start being more excited with SharePoint. Let's get you some excitement. We'll go through some of the actual demo as well from a UI perspective. So let's look at. Let's go back, switch back into the demo, and show you some of the cool things. So I'm back to my Contoso. Let's close this one up. I really don't want to work with it right now. So this is my site here. And from my site, I can go into the brand document library, for example. I'm just going to have to click on it here. Right here, I have my document library that have multiple documents. For example, I can go and the filter pane Here, it's way nicer. It's much more responsive. Make sure that I can go and modify in the last 7 days. I can quickly go into the filter mode and apply things, and it is on the fly. I can go and say, show me the PowerPoint. It will only show me the PowerPoint presentations. I can go and filter an actual some specific metadata, yes and no. It's pretty much nicer than it was before. In addition to that, this is, for example, in my opinion, if you're creating a nicely looking site, you may want to do a little bit more branding. You want to do a little bit more branding when it comes to how the actual view will look like. I have the capabilities to go and do a format the current view, so I don't make it look like boring as this. This is a document library, and you've seen it before. If you use SharePoint for a while, you know that the lists or the custom lists are much more boring looking than this one. And you want to impress the organization, you want to impress your boss. So I can click on the actual view here. So I'm going to go into the all documents view, click on the format current view, and it gives me some capabilities also too. I can go and say out of the box, I'm going to format it and just edit the row style. The odd row will be, for example, yellow, and the even rows will be blue. So I can do it like that, and as quickly as possible, I was able to go and format this view, but I can do a little bit more. Let's get some more fancier than this. If you go into the GitHub, or if you search for formatting views on GitHub, there are tons of examples of how you can format views or columns. And GitHub is my go-to place. I am a lazy person. I don't want to recreate the wheel. Why recreate the wheel? Somebody else has done it for me. So I go and search for that. I look at the actual what kind of view I want to see, and then I came across this thumbnail view. So I'm just going to copy. I have the actual code open in one place. I've copied it from GitHub. I'm going to come and say paste it here. So I'm pasting it here, and it will show me it's basically a bunch of CSS and JavaScript. If you're a CSS and JavaScript person, it's easy for you to do. When I go and paste it here, and I click on preview, here we go. It is a thumbnail. It is a really good looking view right now. I can go and impress my boss and say, hey, it took me 3 days to do it, and it took me maybe 10 minutes to research it, to find it on GitHub, and 30 seconds to paste it here. And don't be afraid to mess this one up. If you mess it up, if for example, you do something that, like, let's cancel this, and then go back to it. So if you format the current view, and you do advanced mode, and you mess it up, and you just do something, it will tell you exactly that is something wrong with your actual JSON. So it won't break your page. That's what I'm trying to say. Another option is, for example, to actually format the column. So I can go and say format this column. I have a little bit more options here. So I can do conditional formatting, and I say I'm going to add a rule here. If due date is before today, then I want it to show as more style. Make the font color as this, and I can say save. And I can go change the style again, and I can add another condition, and I say the due date is after today, then I want you to do something else and make it as green. And here you go. We can start doing things like that. So I can do quite a bit of formatting if I want to. This is the power of modern here. Also, from a published perspective, if I want to go and say I want to format this column, I also copied the code from GitHub. I'm going to say, if I'm not done because I am really slacking, I don't want to show the no, I want to just show the yeses. I'm going to go in advanced mode and paste my code here, and I click on preview, and I say the source check marks. So it's a visual interpretation of what I can do from with modern. So let's resume into the next steps of our migration. How do I migrate my dev work? So from a development perspective, I have few options here. Let's look at the comparing the classic versus modern. In classic, we had sandbox. It is deprecated. You cannot do sandbox anymore. How do you test it? You create another site collection. You test it there. So we use SharePoint framework. SPFx is the only way to do it because we have been defined that is we have to develop within a specific framework and specific areas. Add-in app model is classic. You can hold cloud hosted apps or SharePoint hosted apps. Right now, we upload our code to the app catalog from a development framework. Front-end development, you can use whatever language you can. TypeScript is the famous one. React, you can go React, Yeoman, Node, Gulp, Webpack, whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with. But again, we are going from server-side development, no more server-side development. We're not actually uploading our code to the tenant anymore. It is all client-side JavaScript. This is if you are a JavaScript, you are a client-side developer, you are laughing. So start upgrading your skill set if you want to start developing into the cloud world. Let's talk a little bit more migration. What happens? Like all upgrades, this is from Mark Anderson. It's really, really cool. It's not about the technology. It's basically about getting yourself ready for it. Whatever getting yourself ready for it in terms of getting to know what do you have. Get an analysis. Get a report of what you have. Make sure that you understand what kind of sites you're dealing with before you migrate. Make sure that you understand your information architecture. Keep that in mind that you are building something better all the time. From a branding perspective, you want to go and rebrand things. From the development perspective, you need to go and upgrade your skill set. It's not difficult. If you are a developer, like I said, the front-end development is an easy thing. You want to have a content inventory. You want to make sure that you're not migrating everything. It's way less about technology, more about improving the quality of your collaboration, more in terms of improving your information architecture, making sure that you are adopting the new way of modern that makes life easier for you if you are a technical person, if you are a developer, or for the end user or the content owners. There are a lot of automations behind the scene with modern. So what options do we have when we go into the actual migration? Microsoft will give us an automatic upgrade. It's a one-time upgrade. We have only 5 days left, which doesn't give you a lot of time. That will allow you to upgrade your STS hashtag zero-based templates into modern homepages. So they will allow you, that will give you this one-time upgrade where you can go and it will upgrade all the pages for all the sites for you. What they do is it will turn all your classic pages into modern pages so you can embrace the modern world. But if you have any customized sites, unfortunately, that will not upgrade that for you. So if I have a lot of sites in modern in classic, how do I embrace modern? What do I need to do? One option is from a root site collection options. Basically, what we need to do, if you go into contoso.sharepoint.com or your tenant name.sharepoint.com, it used to be, if you did that tenant a while ago, it is classic. So you can now we have convert your root site to modern. The way you can do that, create a communication site, for example, and you can run a PowerShell command called enable SPO com site. But there are rules. Could not be a publishing infrastructure should be enabled. Another option is to call it a site swap. What it does, if I can create, for example, a communication site, you can make it, what my suggestion is, it will make it as a hub site to create a virtual collection, set your navigation, and swap it with the root site collection. What that means is invoke SPO site swap. What it would do, it will replace your root site collection with the site collection that you've created with that communication site. Once you do that, it will take probably a few minutes. It will go and rename the old or the root site collection to something else, and it will replace the root site collection with the new site collection that you have created. Another option is SharePoint home sites. Home sites have been created and rolled out right now, or in the process of being rolled out. This is a really great site template that you can use for your root site collection as an option. This can be your home site, this can be your corporate site. So you're no longer going for tenant.sharepoint.com/site/site name. So you go into your SharePoint home sites. It has rich navigation. It has beautiful dynamic employee experience that is accessible and available across multiple devices. It is a faster connection across the organizations with multiple social conversations. You can have compelling videos. It has intelligent search, but the caveat with that, you can only have one home site per tenant, which is fine. Because if I am creating a corporate site, corporate intranet, I'm going to SharePoint and my tenant name.sharepoint.com. That's all I need. If you are a global organization where you have multiple corporate intranets, absolutely you cannot have multiple home sites. You're going to have to basically have one, and the rest will be communication sites with the hub in place. What you can do also, if you have existing site collections, that you want to enable them to be modern sites, make sure that the site pages features is enabled. So you're going to have to go into the site collection features and activate the site pages. We can create a modern page. This is for existing sites, classic sites that you don't want to actually migrate into a modern site. You just want to convert an existing one into modern. So you enable the site pages feature. You create a modern page, and you run the following PowerShell, and this slide deck is available for downloads, so you don't have to take screenshots if you don't want to. You run the PowerShell that is on the screen that get PNP list item list pages, and you set the identity to be a home page. And if you want to turn off the quick launch from a team site perspective, you can turn that off as well. From a custom form perspective, no more info path. We all know info path is going away. They're not investing in it, it's being deprecated. You're going to have to convert those into Power Apps. There are no migration path, but it is changed, is hard. So I know it's a redo, but info path, as much as we loved it back then, and as much as we hated back then, Power Apps is way, way better, and we can develop our little canvases in place, and we can do whatever we want in there. We've talked about the conditional formatting. I had those in place just in case my demo does not work. So there's a tons of examples, like I said, on the GitHub. Go check them out from a conditional formatting for the columns or for the views that are really, really beautiful codes from the community that you can go and download. Couple of a few resource links I wanted to share with you that are on there from a modernization scanner. You can have a modernization scanner you can download from Microsoft.com that will give you like a report if you are healthy enough to convert sites to modern. Mark Anderson, there is a great blog post. Bob German and Joel Olson, they have a really great blog post about how to convert. Couple of last slides as well. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you being here. I will take some questions. The speaker feedback, appreciate your feedback. If you can fill out the forms for the speaker and the event as well, it will give us really an opportunity for us to improve and do better in the future. And my contact info also on the screen. If for some reason you have a question that you thought about after or I could not answer today, I would be very happy to answer. Again, Twitter handle is @MikeMaadarani, and my email address is mike@maadarani.com. And I will take any questions if you have any question, Lacey.
We have 3 questions there.
Okay. Is a classic site that's turned to modern site really considered a modern site? Well, it is not really considered a modern site. Yeah, you're right. It is. You cannot, because it's built with the old site architecture, so the performance of it is not as great. So yes, it is not truly a site. It is still built by different templates, so it's still as a classic site, but you're putting like a lipstick on it or a facelift on it with a different page. If it's not better, it's not. It is better just to create a team site. Oh, absolutely. So the second question, if it's not, it does not convert it into a modern site, is it better to start from scratch and create a team and communication site? 100%. You are absolutely right. This is my recommendation. Do not upgrade, but do not upgrade unless you have to. You don't have time. Usually, what I do is I create everything from scratch, and I use the tools to migrate the actual content. So I create the actual truly modern site, and then I will go and migrate the content. SharePoint 2019 Office 365 modern sites are different. They are not different. SharePoint 2019 from a modern world is a snapshot of Office 365 or SharePoint Online at a specific point in time. So if you go to SharePoint 2019, you will see site, a modern team site and a modern communication site, but some of the features may not be there. Just because when they took the snapshot of the code, that's what they had. You don't have, for example, a hub site for SharePoint 2019. SharePoint hub site is only for Office 365, so you can't really have a hub site. In the future, when they release another on-prem, let's call it SharePoint 2022. I have not heard it yet, but let's say there is a SharePoint 2022. I'm pretty sure you'll have a hub site. We have a classic site with layers of subsite permissions. It's better to keep it that way or to convert, mostly use a document storage place. I definitely, if you are migrated into modern, don't keep it. It is in Office 365 today, it is online. It doesn't do you harm to keep it. But if you want to take advantage of modern, you will have to actually take those document storage and split them into multiple sites and create a hub site. I am actually going through that exercise right now, where I am converting SharePoint Online Classic sites that are used for document storage into multiple sites just to take advantage of the future of modern sites. How do you migrate not customized team site from SP 2010-16 to modern? So how do I migrate from a not customized team site from SharePoint 2016 into modern SPO? The way I would do it, I will create, let's say we're keeping similar site structure, similar information architecture. That is going to change because you might have some subsites. Let's say we define the new information architecture. I will go create all the sites in SharePoint Online, and I will use a migration tool to migrate the lists and libraries and the permissions or the membership of those sites into SharePoint Online. So I'll have a mapping document that will say site A in SharePoint 2016 will be mapped to site A1 in SharePoint Online, and then using a migration tool, I will actually be able to migrate the content. You can use a third-party migration tool or a Microsoft migrator to be able to do that. I usually, from the second question is, what tools do you recommend? I don't like to recommend any tools. There are a lot of migration tools out there that are really good, they're really great. You'll have to download them and test them yourself. You can download the Microsoft migrator as well and test it, and they all give you 15 or 30 days of trial. Go download them and see which one fits best for you, and which one you are comfortable with, and use it. What do you tell customers that want to stay classic because of the feature caveat you won't get any updates? At some point, it's okay to stay classic. There is no reason, if you are happy with it, there is no reason to migrate and just create for yourself some work. But if you are going to start taking advantage of new features, developing some web parts, and the more you grow into SharePoint, you're going to have more content. It might start to get slower. Your needs might grow more. So you might at some point need to migrate into modern. But if they want to stay classic is, we've worked with classic since 2003 up until 3 years ago. We can't just say classic is bad. It just modern is the new way. Is much faster to work with the classic than with modern and classic. How long will classic sites be supported? The official statement from Microsoft, it will still be supported. There is no plan to not support it anymore. They will not invest in the actual classic, no more feature upgrades, no more web parts, but it is staying. How do you migrate an SPO classic page to modern? So you cannot, it's not a flip of a switch. It's you'll have to create the page, or you can use a migrator tool that will actually take some of the content of that page and create it as a modern page. But it's not something that, no PowerShell command. Definitely, it's either you do it manually or you go through a migrator tool.
And that looks like all the questions we have for the moment. So thank you, Mike. This mile is going to take a break now for an hour. Mile 1 is still running, so feel free to jump across to that. I'll post the link to that one now in the question and answer.
Thank you, Lacey. Thanks, everyone.